Hello, welcome back to Rev Endurance Sports and another edition of What is in Our Stand Today? Kinda, sorta. Today, I want to talk to you about cleat installation. And I did a video similar to this on how to install cleats on the bottom of your shoe, your cycling shoe. And of course, I'll link that in the description below. But before we get on to the topic of today, please like and subscribe, and please hit that notification bell. Now, I know some folks have been telling me that the notification bell has been grayed out or they can't select it. So if anyone has any technical knowledge they can share with me on why that's happening and how I can make that notification bell available to everyone, I'd really appreciate it. I'm not that tech savvy on certain things, so please leave a comment down below and give me a hand, please. Okay, so what I have here and what I want to talk to you about today is that if you're someone who does not service your bike frequently or your stuff, your accessories frequently, then you need to take some extra precautions when you first get the item or when you first install an item or something like that. If you're new to the channel, you'll notice that I grease just about everything. Even things, and I know this might be controversial, but even things that require a Loctite, or not require, but suggest or recommend Loctite, I typically put grease or an anti-seize product. And the reason I do that is because I cannot tell you how often screws get stripped, the heads get stripped, or the anchor nut, like let's say it's a bottle cage riv nut, the bottle cage bolt will seize because they're typically different metals, and dissimilar metals seem to bond to each other when you don't want them to. And then the riv nut, like let's say on a bottle cage bolt, a bottle cage mount, will strip on the inside, and then what do? You can't repair that easily anyway. So there's a lot of things that I grease or put anti-seize on that possibly they're recommending, either like a blue Loctite, which is fairly light, as opposed to a red Loctite, and anti-seize, as I mentioned. But so let's look at this situation. So this gentleman is someone who rides his equipment hard and puts it away wet. And so if you are someone who rides in inclement weather all the time, frequently, or, you know, this is one of those things that you just don't get a chance to clean up your gear afterwards, I suggest that you install your cleat screws with some grease on the threads. So he brought this to me with the cleat very worn. Hopefully that'll focus in. And it was worn so much that it had worn the head of the cleat screw. And so that was very difficult to get out. So I got two of them out. And then this third one now, not only is the head stripped, but it is seized to the riv nut on the inside of the shoe. So now this shoe is pretty much done. And this is not the first time I've seen this. I've seen this a lot with, sorry to say it, but a lot with triathletes and a lot with triathlon shoes where, you know, they come out of the water, they jump on their bike. You know, if you're not aware, the order of events is swim, bike, run. So they come out of the water, ocean swim or something, and they've got tons of ocean water still on them. They get out of their wetsuit or whatever. They get into their cycling gear. They don't wear socks, and all that water drips down and into this cleat area. So the bolts have a tendency to get seized in there, and salt water corrodes everything. So in this case, or in the cases that I've mentioned, I see it frequently with triathlon cycling shoes. But, you know, this is a situation now where this shoe is ruined, and now we have to look for a new shoe. Really simple task to just put a tiny bit of grease. It doesn't take much, but two things that allows. One is you can use a little bit more oomph to tighten something down, because the grease will allow a little bit more torque, and yet you can still free it. And then the last thing is, or the second thing is, it allows for an element barrier, a barrier from moisture, because grease will keep that separate. Anyway, that's all for today. If it sounded like I was ranting a little bit, maybe I was, but it's just really important that you take care of your stuff. Bottle cage bolts, derailleur hanger bolts, all kinds of these little things, especially things that have these tiny little heads. As a matter of fact, I was just doing an overhaul on a bike, and the frame fittings have these tiny 2mm heads on it. And two of the frame fittings, I could not remove the 2mm screw, which was, you know, tiny, and the head was a 2mm. And so getting a cable or housing or whatever through from the headset area back out, one of them was the rear brake, was just a nightmare. So internal cable routing, you really need those cable stops or frame fittings to be able to be removed, so you have a bigger hole to try to fish cables and housing and things like that. So anyway, enough ranting. Thank you so much for tuning in. Like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next video. But in the meantime, we'll also see you up the road.